Hi everyone, it's Erin from EB Mix Media. Today I am going to be making a journal for all of these tags that I made as part of the Ugly Art Club's 5-minute challenge back in September, I think it was, or maybe late August. I love making tags for those challenges, and they're all really cool. I'm really excited with how they turned out, and I want to showcase them, but I wasn't quite sure how to do it. And while we were cleaning out some of my dad's things, he had years and years worth of these date books. And we kept some of them, but there were a few, some of them didn't have much in them. And I ended up ripping out the insides and keeping the paper, but keeping this spine because I realized it's really a great size for these tags. So I've got a method I think might work where I'm going to use some papers to make signatures from. My thinking is I can make a signature like so and attach these to it so that they'll open, and I'll put 2 on each one. You'll see the back side, but that's okay. That's kind of how I'm planning on doing it. We'll see. I've got some fabric scraps, some strips. I'm going to make a fabric cover, and then I have some larger fabric pieces to potentially cover the inside with. I'm not sure which one I'm going to use. And this is one of those where I don't make journals a lot. It's something I want to do more of, but I have to really concentrate to do this, so I don't think it's something I can talk through and explain as I'm doing it. I think I'm probably going to be starting and stopping and making a lot of mistakes. So what I thought I would do is film and then talk over and explain what I'm doing rather than try and talk at the same time I'm working on it. So hopefully that will work. So I'm going to get started with, I think, sewing the cover, and I'll pull out my sewing machine and make that first, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So for the cover, I settled on some flower sackcloth, which I sprinkled some of Lindy's Magicals on top of and sprayed with water and got this really nice kind of starburst effect. And then I added a piece of fabric, which I'm sewing right here, for the binding. So the 2 pieces of the flower sackcloth will be the front and the back, and then this floral fabric will work as the spine of the journal. So now I'm going to sew what is going to be the back side of the journal cover onto that spine. And notice I'm not pinning or basting or anything like that. I'm really just eyeballing this. And then you'll see here that I actually was even too lazy to go downstairs and pull out my iron and iron this. And instead I sort of finger pressed it in order to just save some time. So as I stated at the beginning, I have not made a lot of journals. I made one a while back I think it was in fodder school. And I'm not sure what the instructor did, but I ended up simply gluing the fabric down onto the journal cover. And it seemed to work just fine. I haven't had any trouble with it. I don't have fabric glue, so I am just using a good old-fashioned glue stick here to affix this fabric to the book cover. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that probably have a lot more experience making journals than I do, and you're probably rolling your eyes and saying, oh my gosh, what is she doing? And maybe even yelling at me at the moment. But what I am demonstrating here is the Lazy Man's Journal Covering 101 class. So it is what it is. So now I'm going to be gluing the side pieces, wrapping that over to the inside of the journal cover. And once I get that finished and get those glued down, I will trim the corners at an angle, and then I'll be able to fold up the top and the bottom, just as if you were wrapping a package. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. I think it looks good. So for the inside, I was debating between 2 different pieces of fabric that I had. This is the floral fabric that appeared on the spine. And then I had this piece of flower sackcloth from fodder school where we continually wiped off our brushes on it. And I thought that was pretty as well. So I was sort of torn. But in the end, I decided to go with the floral on the interior because I thought it tied in nicely with the spine on the front. So I'm just sort of eyeballing the size of this and trimming it down to the right size. Again, I'm not really measuring. I'm not being super careful. And after a lot of fussing, I ended up taking it over to my paper cutter and trimming it there. And I actually trimmed it down a little bit further than I would have liked, but that's okay. So perhaps I should have been measuring and perhaps I should have been a little more careful. Again, I was just trying to get this done quickly, and it's going to look great. So the cover's complete, and I'm turning my attention to my signatures. I'm folding these pieces of paper in half, and I'm using just a Posca pen as like a bone folder to get a nice crease in them. These are about 3 inches by 5 inches, about the size of an index card. One could use an index card for this project. They're heavier duty pieces of paper. Some are wallpaper samples, and the other are kind of a heavy textured paper. And I wanted something heavier to hold these tags. Now I have an old dictionary here, and I use this when I use my awl just to protect my work surface. And I'm punching 3 holes in the middle of, in the fold of these pages. I'm not measuring, I'm not being very careful with where I'm doing that. Again, it doesn't matter to me that it's all perfectly even. Now I'm going to get ready to put holes in the spine of the journal cover, and there I do get a little nervous, and I just pull my ruler out to make sure I'm kind of getting them centered and in the right spot. At first I started marking with a pencil, and then I realized I could just put the holes in. What I don't realize at this stage is I have 2 signatures and I've only put 1 set of holes. So I will go back later and add that second set of holes. So here I'm pulling out one of my large-eyed needles out of this little gizmo. I've got some embroidery floss here. It's in a very pretty kind of tealy blue-green. Somewhere in my youth or childhood, I learned that you're supposed to do 3 times the length of your journal in order to have enough thread to sew your signatures in. I don't think that's a hard and fast rule, or is always the case. I certainly had more thread than I needed, probably because my signatures were only 3 inches tall. So here I am threading the needle, and notice I don't tie a knot in the thread at all. So I've got my signatures organized the way I want them. And I'm going to be starting by going through the top hole of the signature and then down from the inside of the book to the outside of the book through that first hole, leaving a length of thread at the end there and holding on to that. And now I'm going from the outside in through the center hole, catching all the pieces of paper in the signature, pulling that through, and then down and out in the last hole, and then finally back through the center hole to the inside of the journal. And pull that up, and then this is where it gets a little tricky if you're by yourself and don't have a friend. You want to tie a nice tight knot. It's nice if you have someone to help you and hold your finger down. There I'm just checking to make sure it's pulled tightly. And now I'm trying to figure out how to do this. And it doesn't look like I got it very tight, but when I pull on the signature, it does seem to be pretty taut. So I'm going to repeat that with the second signature, and it's here that I realize that I don't have any more holes in the spine, and I'm going to have to put in another set. So I get my dictionary back out and I basically go through and repeat the same process. So I just flip the cover over and use the holes that are already there as a guide to put in a second set of holes where I'll be able to sew in my second signature. So starting again with my signature, I'm getting all my holes lined up first and making sure the paper's in the order that I want it. And once again, you go through the signature into the first hole from the inside to the outside, leaving a bit of string behind. Then you go up from the outside into the inside through the second hole, down from the inside to the outside through the third hole. And sometimes this can get tricky. Oh, shit. And I lost my needle, it became unthreaded as always the way. So finally down through the last hole to the outside and then back in through the center hole. Oops, wrong one. No, right one. And then tying it off. I think I actually got a little better with my tying this time. Practice makes perfect. Maybe not. So there, now the signatures are sewn tightly into the book, and I really have to say up until this point, I'm really still not sure if this is even gonna work out. So I'm gonna start gluing the tags into the book, and I decided to use my art glitter glue because I think it'll be a lot stronger than a glue stick, and I feel like I need that extra strength. Here I'm just sort of lining these up to see about where I want it to go. Because the tags are made where a lot of the items I glued onto the tag are offset to the right or to the left, I have to be careful with this stuff on the left that it's not going to get caught when the book is closed and get bent. So that's one thing I'm really keeping an eye on to make sure there's enough space for the book to close without damaging anything or catching on anything on the tag. So now it's just a matter of gluing. And every once in a while as I'm gluing, I'm checking to make sure the book will still close properly without bending or catching on any of the tags. So the Ugly Art Club 5-minute challenge went 14 days, and then there was a bonus day, which worked out really well for me because then I was able to have 14 pages in my journal, so 2 signatures of 4 pieces of paper each, and an extra tag to put on the cover. And I went through all of them and picked out the one that I thought matched the cover the best. Now I have my stamp set out and I am just stamping the hashtag for the Ugly Art Club. And I'm going to go ahead and also stamp out 2023. I'm not really happy with how the numbers 2023 looked, so I restamped that. I added the hashtag with a pen because I don't have a hashtag stamp I discovered during this project. Now I'm going to cut them out. I'm using my Distress ink in I think it's either walnut stain or vintage photo to sort of antique the edges, and I'm gluing that onto the cover. And now I'll do a quick flip through. I'm really excited how this turned out. It was better than I expected in the end, how it showcases the tags. I'm just thrilled with how it looks, especially once it's closed and you can see all of the ribbons coming up out of the top. I like how the cover turned out, and I'm just really happy with it. I hope you enjoyed this. I sure did. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I had this vision of what I wanted it to be, and I just sort of winged it and did some troubleshooting along the way, and I'm really happy with the results. It's also cool I was able to reuse one of my dad's old field notebooks. That really makes it special as well. That's all for me today. I'll be back again soon, and you can always find me on Instagram at EB Mixed Media. That's EB_Mixed Media. Bye, everyone.